Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the 2024 APRO Legislative Conference Orientation Webinar. We are recording this today, so for those that weren't able to make it, you'll be able to watch and get the same information that we're going to go through over the next few minutes this afternoon. We appreciate you joining us and hope this will be useful in preparing for our time in DC together next week. So for today's agenda, let's go to the next slide, please. First, we're going to start with a welcome and I have a few thank yous to give. Then we're going to do a quick overview of the agenda for next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're then going to hear from Bob Royer, a longtime DC lobbyist, friend of APRO and the RTO industry. He's going to give you some tips on protocol for legislative meetings. We're also going to be joined by Ryan Israel, one of Bob's colleagues in DC. He's going to talk a bit about political action committees and their role and importance. And we appreciate both Bob and Ryan joining us today to talk with us. And for their time next week when we'll be in DC together. We'll then switch gears. We'll talk a little bit about conference logistics and what's tips, things to know before you go and prepare so you can make the best use of the time while we're there. So before we get going, I want to give a huge thank you to our generous sponsors. Without the help and support of this group, we would not be able to do this legislative conference, particularly in the form and way that we're able to do it, to really maximize our time together, to network, and to enjoy the camaraderie that comes with us all being there for this common purpose. So these guys will all be there with us. So please take a chance and take the opportunity while you're there to tell them thank you and how much we appreciate their support in helping us make this happen. We literally could not be doing this without them. I also want to, as a last note of gratitude, goes to our inaugural legislative fellows. We have 11 total. These are all being generously sponsored by 4 of our state rental dealer associations and Ashley Furniture Industries. We all share a vision of creating a pipeline of future RTO industry leaders and champions, and to help grow our pool of advocacy participants each year. This is a part of our longevity and part of our sustainability to train new people, to get them used to coming to DC. And we really appreciate the generous sponsorship and support of the Arkansas RDA, Illinois, Kentucky, Virginia, and Ashley again for making this possible. So when we're there next week, please welcome and mentor these guys. They're brave enough to come and do this for the first time. We've got a wealth of experience and knowledge, and this is a great opportunity to start passing this down to future advocates that will be hopefully doing this for a long time. All right, let's just briefly, let's look at the agenda for next week. Registration opens at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. That will be coincided with the welcome reception we'll have from 4 to 6. Dinner will be on your own on Wednesday, so I encourage you to go ahead and be making plans, reservations for that. We will kick off early on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock with our breakfast, and we will be hearing from Charlie Keller, who is the Chief of Staff for Congresswoman Ann Wagner, Missouri 2nd District. Charlie will be coming in talking about the role and importance of staffers and aides and how that they, the importance they have in talking with legislators and helping to establish these connections and networks that we're trying to accomplish. So we're really excited to have Charlie come in and provide some insight on what we'll be doing throughout the day. Congressional meetings will start around 10 and concluding at or around 4 o'clock. For that evening, We will be shuttling everyone to the photo and the dinner. You please, please, please be in the hotel lobby at 5:15. We have to have this lined up. DC traffic is notoriously tight at that time of the afternoon. So we'll be shuttling from the hotel to down to in front of the Capitol building to take a photo, and then over to the Daughters of American Revolution headquarters down near the White House, the Ellipse area, for our debrief dinner at 6:30. Friday, we have optional White House tours. If you signed up for one of those tours, we were granted access for all the slots we'd requested. So if you had signed up for one of those, you should have received an email from us confirming your time and a very strict list of things to do and not to bring to do that. And that will conclude our conference. Everybody flying home after that. So that's our agenda. So shifting gears to today, we've got two speakers, and I'm very pleased to have both of them here to give you some tricks and tips on what to do next week. Let me start with Bob Royer, who's going to walk through our legislative meeting protocols and tips for that. Bob, take it away.
Thank you, Charles. I know we've met many of you, and I know Ryan has met many of you in the past conferences. We've been doing this, I guess, with APRO since about 1993 or so. So it's become kind of old hat. And the meetings in Washington have varied in sizes from, a handful of people to a significant number of people. And this year, APRO has done a great job putting together a very robust group of people to come into town. Unfortunately, in one sense, the Congress is not there. When APRO set up the meeting, Congress looked like it was going to be here during the time that the conference is going to be held, but they, in their own inimitable way, decided to change up the schedule for everybody. So that's the unfortunate part. The fortunate part is that because it's in a recess period, you'll be able to probably spend more time with the staff. Some of you will have meetings with members, whether it's in the Senate or the House. But most of you will probably meet with staff people whose principal responsibility is to deal with matters before the House Financial Services Committee and the Senate Banking Committee. So you will probably get a lot more time for the meetings that you're going to have during this recess period with staff than you might otherwise have when Congress is in session. So that's, I think, a very positive aspect of the time that you're going to be there. Now, the importance of coming to Washington, obviously, is that people like Brian and myself and Jim Butera and others that represent the industry, we're kind of like the local fire department. But what's more important is to have people that are actually in the business come in and talk to the staff and talk to the members, because then the staff and the members appreciate and realize that the issues that you've come to talk to them about, or the matters of which you come to talk to them about, are important to you. It's not just that you've got somebody that you paid to come talk to somebody. It is an important issue or an important meeting for you to have because you've come a distance to be there. Now, when you meet with the members, it's very important, especially if you are from their district, congressional district. Obviously, if you're from their state, senator represents the whole state. But if you're from the district, you want to let them know that you're from the district, or let them know that you have stores in the district. Let them know that how many employees you have, that if you participate with charitable organizations that many of you do in your local communities. That's important for them to know. But the talking points that Charles and APRO have prepared are actually very good talking points for you to kind of use as guardrails for your conversation. I will say this, that in the people that you'll meet, you'll find some members, mostly Republicans, that will support your position, that say, oh, say no more, we're with you on this, don't worry about a thing. And you'll find most members that are on the Democratic side will be a little leery of you. They may, be some may be hostile, although I doubt it. But there are some members of Congress which tend to be, and their staffs tend to be hostile. But you have to keep in mind that we're not really there asking them to do anything. We're there really to say who we are, what we do in the community, what we do for our consumers, and how we treat our consumers. We want to emphasize that we're not credit, that the industry itself provides a very needed and reputable service to especially people of low income or do not have the means to have quality electronics or quality furniture. And most importantly than ever, this is a transaction that the consumer can walk away from at any point in time they desire. And there is no repercussions to that. It's also important because some of the people you'll be talking to, either Ryan or myself or Jim or others in the industry have met with over time. And so you want to make sure that you let them know that this is a transaction that's probably, I think, besides car leasing and home purchases and business loans, is probably one of the fourth largest financial transaction out there, of which there are millions of them every year. So we have no consumer complaints. The last I checked, and Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been no, or if there are consumer complaints, it doesn't tick up to anything to matter. We have a very good regulator with the FTC. The FTC, we stay in touch with the FTC. They stay in touch with us, and we let them know that we are, what we're doing. When we start into a new line of business or something, we go talk with them so that they're not overly exercised about it. So we're well regulated on the federal level with the FTC, which, for those of you that, that don't think of it that way, the FTC is kind of the backup regulator for anybody that doesn't have a regulator in business. We are not regulated by the CFPB, nor do we want to be regulated by the CFPB because we are not credit. We are regulated by virtually every state, with the exception of Wisconsin and New Jersey and Minnesota, I believe. So state regulation, we are extremely well-regulated entities throughout the country. And so those are really the important things to kind of impress upon the people that you're going to be meeting with. And like I said, you'll meet with some people that'll be very suspect. They put us in often some of the Democratic members, especially, put us in the category of payday lenders and other organizations that are out there that provide, credit, one could almost say loan shark credit, if you will, but we are not in that category. We don't provide credit. And the consumer can walk away from the transaction, as at any point in time. Those are really the really important things to really focus in on after you've explained who you are, what you do in the state, and you'll also have a form to fill out, which will really help Charles, APRO, and those of us that work in Washington get a better feel for the relationships that you are developing, will develop, or have developed, and the information that you derive from those, the intelligence that you derive from those meetings will be very significant down the road, if and when we have to seek legislation or defend the industry, by knowing which members of Congress lean our way, which members of Congress seem very comfortable with the rent-to-own transaction, which members of Congress or their staff, are skeptical of the transaction, don't like the transaction. Those are all data points that that we use here in Washington to assess the viability of doing an amendment that might further clarify that we're not credit, or to prevent an amendment that might otherwise change the very character of the transaction by deleting the parenthetical in Reg Q, or I mean Reg Z. So that's in essence. Charles and APRO have done a great job putting together a very excellent briefing package for you all to use in your meetings, and a form to fill out at the conclusion of your meeting, so that we have some record of not the fact that you went to the meetings. If you go to the meetings, that's great. I mean, we hope you go to all the meetings, but more is the intelligence that we can gain from your meeting with the staff and members. And again, keep in mind that, while the member has a nice title of the Honorable so-and-so, the staff are really the ones that do the work. Staff are the ones that will be the ones that talk ultimately to the member and say, you should vote for this or you shouldn't vote for that. So staff is critical. Do not take any umbrage whatsoever. If you thought you were meeting with a member and you turn out you're not meeting with a member, you're meeting with staff, it's quite all right. So you've got also in your packet, you've got a map of the various buildings. Hopefully, it's probably a little too late now, but hopefully when you scheduled your meetings, you scheduled them in kind of a cluster, so that you're going to be on the House side. You're not going all the way over to the Senate, all the way back to the House, all the way over to the Senate, all the way back to the House, because you can't walk underneath the Capitol any longer. That is now an off limits deal. So you can walk between the three Senate office buildings, and you can walk between the three House buildings underground. So you don't have to go out, especially if it's hot. You don't have to go out and worry about that, or rainy. The only time you're going to have to walk from one side is from one side of the Capitol to the other side of the Capitol. That'll have to be done outside, unless you can cajole a staff member to walk you over to the Senate or walk you over to the House, which you might be able to do. But other than that, I think you've got a great program here. Ryan and Jim and I have gone over the various meetings that you have planned, and the teams that you have to assemble together to charge the hill. And I think you're going to have a bunch of great meetings. You've got a bunch of great people here in Washington to do this. Those of you that are first timers, you've got some great people mentoring you in this process that have been down this road a number of times. And so both Ryan and Jim and I will be available. We represent Upbound or Rent-A-Center, as our representative, but we are there to help all of the APRO members during this conference, and we can happy to provide our cell numbers. So if anybody has a question, a problem, or anything like that, either Charles can reach out to us and we can join somebody in a meeting, or whatever might be required of you. With that, I know part of this meeting, the part of our effort today, is to try and impress upon you the importance of a political action committee that APRO has, and frankly, a political action committee that your companies may or may want to establish, that would benefit not only on the federal level, but also in your states where you may or may not have legislation pending. So with that, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you. Ryan is with Meeks, Butera in Israel. He's a senior partner there, and is our resident PAC expert, and will walk you through the PAC expertise. At the end of Ryan's presentation, both Ryan and I will be happy to answer any questions for you. We'll probably provide our contact information if you'd like it. So with that, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Bob. And thank you all the folks at APRO for putting this conference on. Post-COVID, not all national trade associations have resumed their annual fly-ins. So there's going to be a lot of staffers that are new to the rent-to-own issue as well. So as Bob mentioned, the most important thing you all have done is to commit to flying up to Washington. That shows a huge commitment on your part about the importance of APRO's legislative issues. and the important role you all and your employees play back home in their states and congressional districts. So what Bob was just talking about is the legislative focus of APRO. When members of Congress and senators get elected, they have a daytime job, which is to represent the people back home, to pass laws, to hold hearings into industries, make sure existing laws are functioning properly. That's their 9 to 5 job, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. They also have a nighttime job, as I like to put it, and that is getting reelected. And as you know, any elected official, the members of the House have to run for reelection every 2 years. The members of the Senate have to run for reelection every 6 years. And of course, the presidency, which we really don't play in those in that race, but it's every 4 years. So members of Congress, that's kind of their nighttime job, is to get reelected, and especially for the House, because of that 2-year election window. They're always looking for campaign contributions from their constituents and from industries that have interests on Capitol Hill. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. Sometimes the press likes to portray political action committees as dirty, that there's too much influence from this industry or that. We are just one voice out of many on Capitol Hill, but in order to have a significant voice, the PAC plays an important role in that, to make sure that our voice is heard, not only in the legislative conference, which is what you're going to be doing next week, but also in the political contests and the political debates that go on. So the purpose of a political action committee is to support candidates for the House and Senate at the federal level who have shown an interest in the issue, in your industry and the legislative issues you face, and also who serve on committees of jurisdiction. There's 535 members of Congress, 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House. Not all of them serve on committees that are familiar with consumer financial products. In the House, it's the the House Financial Services Committee. In the Senate, it's the Senate Banking Committee. So APRO tends to focus its political activity on members of Congress who serve on those two committees, because that's who has jurisdiction over consumer financial issues, the CFPB, and financial regulation in general. So that's kind of our sweet spot. The reason that we have to have a political action committee is that you all could contribute to your members of Congress in your individual capacity, but then they would just be getting a contribution from, John Doe or Jane Doe, and they wouldn't know exactly what John and Jane Doe's issues are. When you have an association like APRO, which is a nonprofit trade association representing your industry, that association can set up a political action committee, and you can collectively, have a political voice, and that is what APRO PAC is and what it does. The Federal Election Campaign Act, which was a law passed in the 1970s, prohibited corporations from donating directly to political candidates. So IBM, or you name the corporation, can't just write a corporate check to the friends of John Doe running for Congress in Congressional District X from New York. They have to solicit money from their employees, voluntary contributions to their company political action committee, that can then be pooled, and it's a regulated process as to how much you can raise from your employees, and then how much your employees can then contribute to the political candidates. The same is true for trade associations like APRO. APRO cannot write a check directly to Senator Smith's reelection campaign. However, they can solicit contributions from its membership, the senior executives like you all, from their member trade associate. I'm sorry, their member companies, and so those contributions are then pooled and given to members of Congress that are or candidates that haven't been elected yet, to use in their election and reelection campaigns. So that's kind of a nutshell as to what a PAC is. And again, the importance of it is that there's two types of business activity that go on in Washington. One is the official legislative stuff, and then the political arena that is also ongoing at all times. And if you want to have your voice heard, you need to be able to have a voice in both kind of arenas. Now, I don't have much more. I'm sure there's a lot of questions you might have. I will say that for some of you who are corporations or organized as corporations, you can establish your own political action committee if you have senior executives or management level employees, enough of them that you think it might work for you to establish your own political action committee. You really can't solicit every employee or expect every employee to contribute to a political action committee, and you can't reimburse anyone at the trade association level or at the corporate level. You can't reimburse somebody for contributing to the PAC. It has to be all voluntary on the solicitation side for the political action sponsor. The other thing, a word of caution, is that the folks that you'll be meeting with next week are government employees. They are legislative staff, and they cannot, and you cannot discuss political, the PAC or anything related to political money or campaign contributions. It's kind of a nuance, but a very bright line is that when you're on government property talking to a government employee, then the political discussion has to stop. If you were meeting with off of Capitol Hill or outside of a government office building, if you were talking to a elected official and it was a political campaign finance event, fundraiser, if you will, then of course that's when the PAC discussions take place. But no need to worry about or discuss APRO PAC or the campaign, the members' campaign. I just focus on the legislative material and topics that APRO's put together. But please do know that this other arena, the political arena, does happen here in Washington, and that APRO has a voice in that, and it's called APRO PAC. So.
Great. All right. Thanks, Ryan. That's really good and important stuff. Particularly, as you all have probably seen, we have dubbed April as the APRO Advocacy Month, and you should be seeing a lot of information from us about what we do in terms of advocacy. The APRO PAC is a core component of our advocacy strategy. It helps facilitate a lot of these things that we do, in particular with these meetings in DC. We do have a few questions that are kind of coming in. Very important. Checks to the APRO PAC need to be personal, or can they be a corporate check?
They need to be personal. Again, because of that prohibition on corporate campaign contributions, the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, treats those the same way they would a campaign contribution directly to a candidate. So IBM Corporation cannot. Sorry, I'm picking on IBM. I don't know. I'm looking at an IBM computer, but IBM PAC cannot, or IBM itself can't make a direct contribution to its political action committee or to any candidate. the contributions have to be voluntary from the APRO members in their personal capacity.
Right.
I think to further answer that question, Charles, I think and Ryan can elaborate a little on this. And there's one instance, for example, that because of this call, people are hearing about the PAC, and they could write a check, and there are limits to the amount of money that they can contribute, which Ryan can explain. There's also the notion. There's the kind of three parts of this. One part of it is what I just discussed. The other part is that the association can ask permission from the various companies to solicit their employees directly. APRO can ask permission to solicit employees generally, and that can only be done to people that are managerial people or above. So think of it in terms of APRO could only solicit, say, Rent-A-Center's employees from vice president up, or probably store manager up. They couldn't solicit the driver or anybody else. There's a limit to the number or the type of person that can be solicited. And then lastly, the PAC itself, or the company itself, could set up its own PAC, and they have the same limits, the same contribution limits into their own PAC that they would have if they were giving to APRO, and they have the same limits on the nature and type of person that they can solicit within their own company. Do you have anything you want to elaborate on that with Brian?
No, I just would say that the limit that Bob mentioned is that the maximum that an individual can contribute to a political action committee is $5,000 a year. That would be a very generous contribution to APRO PAC, and I'm sure we would accept much less than that, but that is the annual contribution limit.
Great. All right, we've got a couple other questions I think that we can kind of take up as we move through the remaining stuff. And just to segue from this discussion on the PAC, here is just a QR code that will take you to some information about the APRO PAC. Now we are limited through our PAC rules and regulations that we are only allowed to solicit member owners that level of our membership. One thing that is important, and I think you'll see this next week when you're having these meetings, being able to walk into a room with a congressman, with a staffer, and to say that you're here on behalf of APRO, you're a member of an organization that represents, in our case, 70% of the entire rent-to-own industry. The equivalent of that is being able to be doing that from the PAC and being able to say, look, our PAC represents a large percentage of our industry, a large number of our members participate in the PAC through contributions. And so we've set a very lofty goal, and I want to get us on this trajectory to get to 100%, where that every APRO member contributes some form or another. And the strategy behind this is very much a small dollar one. Any amount helps and gets us there. If we had each member contributing, we would be in a very good and have a very robust PAC. And so that's kind of our goal, and that we've put out there. There's a lot of information about the APRO PAC, a lot more details about what we do, our intentions, the strategy, and that sort that is on the APRO website. I believe this QR code will probably take you to there, or at least give you a link towards those documents, and we've shared those a good bit as well. So I guess in moving on, just there's a QR code for just your consideration as well. And I'll hit on a few of these questions. Please keep putting those into the chat as they come up, and we'll try to answer those as we move through here. First of all, team rosters. We've got over 80 people that are be participating in the APRO legislative conference this year, which is great. What that's allowed us to do is to create 13 different teams and to hit a multiple number of states with people from those states to meet with the representatives there. We've got 13 teams, about 5 to 6 people per team. We are still finalizing schedules. This is a very in-depth and ongoing process. This takes weeks. Really, we've been doing over really the past 2 months of trying to organize these meetings for you all. So we will have a final schedule by Monday. They will be each team has a team captain, and so we'll be sending those schedules out for them to have. You will. What we have tried to do, and really going back to Bob's point, if you've ever done this before, these office buildings are spread out and they're huge, and they're hallways upon hallways and floor upon floor. And so we've really tried to work through these to really minimize where you're not over on one side of on the House side and then having to run across to get to the Senate, because that is quite a walk. And even if you've got a car, it still takes some time to manage to get over there quickly, go through security, go through those efforts. So we've really tried to address that. Be prepared that you're probably going to we're looking at I think we've got 5 to 6 meetings per team. I believe that's give or take. You may get a few more, give a few less, but these are the rosters. This will be is in the packet of materials that you got with the link yesterday. And you'll get a printout copy of this as well. One thing I do want to emphasize too is that we do have a number of meetings with committee staffers on both House Financial Services and Senate Banking. And so these are our 2 committee regulators that are very important, and these will be be kind of involve people from different states for those meetings as well. Okay. Telling your story. All right, this is there is you'll find in the packet, and I really think that it would be a good idea to pull this one out and go through it just so you can start thinking about it. And really the who, what, why, and when and where of what we're doing here. Who, tell them who you are, where you live and work, establishing that personal connection. And most of these staffers and aides that you would meet with are from the district. They may have gone to, gone to the church you went to, or gone to know someone in your family. Those type of connections go a long way in establishing the relationships. Be prepared to talk about your company, customers, who you serve, what kind of activities you do in the community. Tell them about what the RTO industry is all about. I think there's a conception out there, and I can tell you probably the most important thing we do with going to DC is being able to be the person and be the group that's telling our story, because there are consumer advocacy groups, there are other groups that are up there telling our story for us. And in most of those cases, it is not the story we would be telling. So it's important for it to come firsthand from us so we can tell them what we are, and more importantly, what we're not, and not credit sell. We're not subject to the CFPB. We're not subject to a number of these things. We're heavily regulated on the state level. All this information is in your packet. So just please spend a little bit of time doing that and going through that. So, and again, the other questions of why RTO is important, how it feels needed in the community. The when and where is important too, because I think one thing that we could really do here is you'll be meeting with the people that can help set schedules. August, Congress seems to work about as or be off about as much as they are in session. And so they're going to take a long break in August. I think it's over a 5 or 6 week period. This is in your packet. They've got a little bit more time with this being an election year in October when they're going to break. So really they're going to be at home in your district more from about the end of July until the election day that they're going to be in DC. And this is a great opportunity to invite them for an in-district meeting, to whether that's going to one of their offices, inviting them to one of your stores, inviting them to an event. It's a great way to do that. We've had a lot of members that have done that and had success with that in the past. And so we would encourage you to move this in as a strategy for your meetings.
I'm just to interrupt, Charles. I mean, I think that last point is very important because they will be home. All of them have at least one district office. Senators usually have 2 or 3 district offices back in the state. And the staffs are not, sometimes the staff from Washington during the break will go back to the state and help. Sometimes they don't. But even if you can forge a relationship at a local level back home with the congressional office, that's a big help. Sometimes the member will have a deputy chief of staff or a co-chief of staff back in his district that runs all his operations within the state, and puts a schedule together for the state. So keep that in mind when you go back home, especially if you bump into people that you like, and you will. You'll bump into people that you'll say, oh, why do I want to talk to this person? And there'll be other people that you talk to that you say, I like this guy. I want to get to know him better. And you want to get to know the member better because they're in your state. So utilize that opportunity during these breaks if you can. As Charles says, invite them to your store to take a look and see what you do. Have them talk to one of your customers. The one thing I've learned over all the years of representing the rent-to-own industry is that store managers, the stores have superlative, relationships with their customers. And, to have a member of Congress come in and have a customer say, oh, this is a great service. I couldn't do this without rent-to-own, it's worth more than you can imagine. So keep in mind to do something in the district, if you can, with the people that you're going to be meetings with office. I'm sorry,
Also, I'd add, be sure to get a card from the staff that you meet with. It might be the staff that you met with last year, or it might be the staff that you're going to meet with a year ahead. These offices, the staff tends to be young. They don't get paid very much at all. Hence the reason, the older they get, they move on, go to grad school or whatnot. But one of the most important things you can do is kind of build a relationship in these meetings. I think I just saw an APRO slide which said, building relationships. That's really what you're doing. An a rent to own topic's not going to come up next week or the week after, but it might come up, 2 months, 3 months down the road. And if you've got somebody in that congressional office that you met with here in April, that you can call in the future and say, hey, we were out there in April, this issue's come up. We'd like, your help in advancing it or defeating it. Bob alluded to that, but really this is your chance to kind of build make a friendship in each of those offices, whether the member themselves turns out to be a friend of the industry or a foe. You've got a contact there now, where you've got someone that you can pick up the phone and call or drop a quick email to. That cuts through a lot of bureaucracy down the road if we ever needed to get in contact with them. And it gives you a chance again, next year, if they're still there, to have a friendly face in these offices. Those kind of relationships are invaluable.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Chad asked a question, I think, on the chat thing about, Nebraska. There are a couple of members from Nebraska who are actually very good members that I've met, and we've discussed this with, and I think that you'll find them to be relatively open. I don't think you're going to find anybody in Nebraska that's going to be on the warpath for this. And in Nebraska, there aren't a lot of members on either of the committees. So I think there's only one member from Nebraska on the House Financial Services Committee. So I don't think you have to worry too much about that. I think you'll find most of the people you're going to be talking to. I mean, I didn't mean to scare anybody. Most of the people you're going to be talking to, they're all professional. They'll all give you a good meeting, I'm sure. But you will find, you might, or I shouldn't say will find, you might find a staff person that is so far to the left progressively that their view of you is, to use the vernacular, you should eat shit and die. And that's just the way they feel. They're wedded to the consumer groups, and whatever the consumer groups tell them, that's what they're going to do. And this is your opportunity to blunt that. But I don't think you're really going to run into anybody that's going to be openly hostile. You'll run into people that are very skeptical of the industry, but I doubt they're not going to be on the warpath, I think, as Chad put in the chat. I don't think you're going to find that. I'm sorry, Charles.
No, that's great. Yeah, and I think you're right. The great points on that. The bottom line is, look, what is our RTO and our membership the best at? It's relationships. I mean, this is a relationship industry. We're good at it with each other. We're good at it with customers. And I think that moving that into this arena of establishing these relationships with the people we're going to meet with next week is very important. And a lot of these guys, some of the lower level guys will move on, but a lot of these guys stay. We'll hear from Charlie Keller at the breakfast. He's the chief of staff now. He's been, I think, chief of staff for maybe one or two other members as well. A lot of these guys stay. They live. Members come and go. There's a lot of turnover. We're going to see a lot of that in November, for either by choice of retirement or by force through the election cycle. And so a lot of these guys become career staffers, and having those relationships to be able to have the access when we need it at some point in the future is an invaluable resource that we can be building today, and it's part of what we're going to be doing next week. One thing that just to reiterate, we've got a number of all these documents that we're showing you are going to be printed for you and will be in your packet. Your team captain will have several copies of this RTO at a glance. This is what's called a leave behind document, in the sense that you literally leave it behind. I want to thank particularly the Government Relations Committee and the staff, and we've redesigned this, really refocused a lot of these talking points that are on this and the information and data. So I think we've got a really great document to be leaving behind to represent the industry for future questions that might come up. So thanks for all the hard work that went into preparing this. In addition to that, you will all be provided with copies of the state economic impact reports. This is a data set that we produce at APRO. These will be by state. They have very detailed aggregate stats about districts. So in this one, for example, Illinois, District 1 has 1 store, 6 employees, 482 customers, and payroll taxes of $34,000 a year. You'll see at the top what the impact of the whole state will be. And these are really important. It's great data, great information about who we are and what that we represent, and what the constituency looks like for each of these members when you're talking to them. So you'll have copies of these. These will be leave behind documents too. These are ones that you want to give to them at the beginning to explain what rent to own is, and here's the economic impact that we have in the state that they represent. Okay, I think I've got a question, Jonathan.
I was just going to add to what Ryan was talking about. If somebody's new on doing what we're doing, Ryan's point was, so you have someone to call, you're making a relationship in a congressional office, so you know who to call. And the real pitch that I leave behind with the staffer who I'm meeting is that they know that they have a point of contact in me. Would they call me if something is bubbling up and they want to know how we would be impacted by it? And I've been in a couple of contentious offices. They are professional, but when you start talking about things like reinstatement and the services we provide, it pretty much tames down anybody, and then leaving them with the message, let me be your contact if you have any questions. I just wanted to add that to what Ryan was saying earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. That's really good. Okay, and related to this, because this is important for us to really collect this data, and Bob really spoke well about this a few minutes ago. This debriefing form, you're going to have a QR code. This is going to be all, you can fill this out electronically, but this is really important to have a record of who we met with, who these connections and how that we can, who we can network with going forward. What we would ask you to do is for each team, assign one note taker per meeting. And that person is going to be responsible for providing the basic information, about who was there, short summary of the meeting, any follow-up that's needed. And that follow-up is really important because, sometimes there will be, hey, can you send me some information about this? We're here to help with that, but we need to know it. And so these debriefing forms are just absolutely critical to completing a successful meeting. So we need to make sure that there's one of these forms completed for each meeting that's held. If we can get a feedback and one of the responses from all of these meetings, it's going to be a great data source for us, and things that we can do to follow up to further the efforts that we're doing in person. So few more things just as we kind of are wrapping up here. Important things to know before you go. Materials, no need to print any of this. As I mentioned, you're going to be getting a hard copy of this in your folder when you check in next week. Hotel information, really important. We are at the Hyatt Regency Washington on Capitol Hill. That's on New Jersey Avenue. There are probably 6, 7, 8 different Hyatts: Hyatt Place, Hyatt Park Hyatt, Grand Hyatt, Hyatt. We don't want you to end up in Baltimore or in Bethesda or somewhere. Just make sure that you get Hyatt Regency Washington on Capitol Hill. You should be able to see the Capitol from there. You'll know you're in the right place if your Uber or cab takes you in that direction. We get a lot of questions about dress code. Business attire, jackets and ties encouraged for men, equivalent for the women. Comfortable shoes. We're going to do a lot of walking. There's a lot of hallways, a lot of buildings. So make sure and wear comfortable shoes and be ready to walk. Looks like the weather is going to be cooperating for us next week. We should have pretty ideal conditions. So hopefully that will hold for a few more days till we get there. As Bob mentioned earlier, there's detailed maps of the Capitol Hill buildings. Your team will have people that will have been here before. I don't think we've got a team that doesn't have a veteran on the team. So knowing the difference between the House side and the Senate side and how to get through the tunnels, not the tunnel that connects the House and Senate, but there are kind of tunnels that connect the House buildings and the Senate buildings that you can walk through to get from one to the other. We will include a map, and that's pretty useful and important to be able to see that. Last but not least, this is Lisa's cell number. Lisa is going to be there and available to help you in any way that you need. Questions about anything that's happening, any advice, make sure and write this down so you've got it, and then we can be there to help you along the way, and help support you. Have a great day up on the Hill next Thursday.
Yeah, we'll provide Charles with mine and Ryan and Jim's cell number so you can get us. Well, one thing on the dress attire, because it's recess, a lot of the staff will not be in coat and tie. So having a coat, I think, is a good thing, but I don't think you necessarily have to worry about wearing a tie during the recess unless you really want to. But I would suggest a coat during that period of time. It's supposed to be hot again, so expect some hot weather and be according. So, but I don't want anybody to be sweating through a hot necktie when they walk into a meeting and they see everybody sitting there in a polo shirt and a pair of slacks, and they're wondering, why am I here with a tie on? So that's just a function of what you feel the most comfortable in, I'd say, at this point.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Okay, I think if there are any other questions, throw them in the chat now. If not now, feel free to reach out to me, to Lisa, to anyone over the coming days as we get ready for next week. You will you'll be getting I believe one more email from us just to know before you go with informations or with additional information. But we look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday, 1 week away from today. Again, I just want to reiterate how appreciative and grateful we are that you are going to be spending your time to come up and do this. This is a really important, a very important function and really the core mission of what we're here at APRO to do, to join together and to have a collective voice. And having this many people come together to DC to collectively go and talk about this industry is such a great and wonderful thing. And we appreciate your being a part of it. So Lisa's numbers back.
One last thing, Charles, and it's important because every time these guys have a meeting, they think people are coming to ask them to do something.
Yeah.
And we're not asking them to do anything. And I'd make that clear at the onset at the meeting. We're not here to ask for anything. We're here to explain our industry to you and what we do and how we do it. And you'll see probably in virtually every office you go by, they go, oh, thank God. So just keep that in mind, you know, that you're not there to ask for anything. You're there merely to impart information about your company and your industry.
That's great. Yeah, you will certainly see a little bit of relaxed shoulders whenever you make that statement. So, all right, Bob, Ryan, thank you so much for your time and being here today. Thanks everybody for your time and attention and joining this training. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next week up in DC. Thank you.
Same here. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.